Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Tyson Fury, look, Tyson Fury holds the keys to the heavyweight division. This man is not going to retire. People, I'll tell you right now, Tyson Fury is not going to retire. He is going to come back. Let me see. If Joshua and Usyk have a rematch in July, what's that? August, September, October, November, December. And depending on who wins, because that's the target date right now, July 23rd. But depending on who wins, the damage they take in the fight, having a fight by the end of the year is realistic. Like an undisputed, a fight for the undisputed distinction is actually, within reason. But the issue right now, so first thing, let's touch on Fury, right? Tyson Fury isn't going anywhere. Bob Arum already came out and said that Tyson Fury still has 2 fights left on his contract. Maybe there's some clause in there that allows him to exit the contract, but Bob Arum was already on record talking about Tyson Fury having 2 more fights. He's not retired, and he's going to have a fight in the States and then another fight. The fight in the States, if they don't make the Fury and, AJ or Usyk, whoever wins that fight, because it's going to be for an undisputed distinction. So you would think they would want to definitely have the media, the press tour, and you would think they wouldn't want to. So if you figure 5 months to the end of the year after July, person would need to heal, get healthy, take a little bit of a break, go back into training maybe in 2 months. 3 months is not enough time. So that fight probably wouldn't take place until April of next year. That means Tyson Fury would have been out the ring 4, 9, maybe 10 months if he doesn't have a kind of in-between fight just to stay busy. Now, Tyson Fury didn't take any damage from Dillian Whyte. Nothing at all. There's no reason for Tyson Fury to not have a stay busy fight between now and April. Now, if he chooses to do that, I don't know. We all know that Tyson Fury can go away from the ring, stay active in the gym. He has a discipline to not allow himself to become rusty and to show up for an April fight and be in phenomenal shape and do damage again against whether it's Usyk or AJ. So Tyson Fury is, I think if he's out the ring more than a year, then we start having a little bit of issues with Tyson Fury, just as far as his activity rate. But it won't be an issue with the WBC. See, this is the thing where I wish we could be a fly on the wall when phone calls are being made or when they're having these virtual conferences or meetings and teleconferences, just to hear what is actually being said. We know that the WBC is okay with Tyson Fury taking as long as he needs to figure out what he wants to do next. And the reason why they're okay with that is because they know Tyson Fury is returning to the ring to defend his WBC title. All right? These are things that you just don't see. You would have wished the WBA would have treated Josh Taylor like that. And then he'd still be undisputed champion. But it is what it is. So Tyson Fury is going to continue to relax. He's waiting on the outcome of Usyk and Joshua. Now, this is the problem with Usyk and Joshua. They've agreed on the fight in the Middle East on July 23rd. But this is April. These guys still need to do a press tour. Well, it's May. So we're about to hit June. So they need to get the press tour going ASAP because these guys need really an 8-week training camp. Now, we know they've all been training already, so it's not even a matter of them starting. They've already started training. So AJ's probably already 2 months into the process. Usyk is about a month into the process as far as training goes. So really they would have Joshua would have had probably more like 16 weeks of training, Usyk more of 12 weeks of training, if they were to stick to this July 23rd date. But if they don't announce the fight within the next week or 2 weeks, this July 23rd date gets kicked down the road. Now, if it gets kicked down the road, that benefits Tyson Fury because these guys aren't in the ring fighting. So the longer it takes for them to actually get in the ring and sort things out, it kind of actually, you know what? It doesn't really benefit Tyson Fury because if they wait and fight later this year, and then someone fights Tyson Fury in April, they wouldn't have been out the ring as long had they gotten the ring in July. So if for some reason this fight gets pushed back past July 23rd to, let's say, September, that is a month of what could have been really inactivity for them had they fought in July, which would have obviously give Tyson a little bit of a peace of mind knowing that, okay, I'm not the only one who's been out the ring for a while. These other guys have been out for, about 5-6 months themselves, or 7 months. So it's not too bad when you look at them being out the ring about 7 months, him being out the ring 10 months. That's not too much of a disparity. But my thing is this, right? When we're talking about having these press conferences and the media tour, they want to go, of course, to the Middle East. Looks like they're going to be in England and they're going to go to New York. Now, if you know you're planning these dates of traveling, holding press conferences, why force it? Why try to force it? That puts a lot of strain on a person to get all of that done in under a week, just to come back and these guys can focus on 8 weeks before the fight and start training. Like, really, no kidding. Okay, the training starts now. I just think when you're forcing things, they don't work out. They don't work out well. And everything about this July 23rd date seems to be forced. Now, Eddie Hearn, when he comes back and says everything is agreed on, we just have to wait and make an announcement. So if everything's agreed on, right? Why is he always saying we have to wait to make the announcement next week? He said that when it came to Tyson Fury and AJ fighting over in Saudi, he's always talking about we'll get an announcement in a week, we'll get an announcement in 2 weeks. Oh, we're getting closer. A couple of small, minute details that we're working on right now. We'll get that sorted out. Shouldn't be an issue. And we'll get an announcement. A lot of times we don't get those announcements from Eddie Hearn. So what he's talking about as far as July 23rd date, I'm not holding my breath, and you shouldn't either. But we do know that Usyk and AJ are going to fight. I'm just not sure if that date's going to work out. But this is the thing with Tyson Fury. He can do just about whatever he wants. And when it comes to him fighting AJ or him fighting Usyk, okay, I personally think that neither one of them have a really good chance on defeating Tyson Fury. If anyone, I would give anyone a chance to defeat Fury. And this may shock some of you. Some of you may agree. If I gave anyone a chance to defeat Tyson Fury, and I'm not going to say Deontay Wilder, I'm not going to say Joe Joyce, Otto Wallen, I think Usyk has a really good chance to get in there and pull off the upset. And the reason I say that is because of his ability to get in and out, his herky-jerky style, and get out of range before Tyson Fury can let his hands go. Now, Tyson Fury can box. He will hold his ground. And he's proven that it's hard to vote against him. But when you look at the opponents Tyson Fury's faced, Deontay Wilder gave him a hard fight. But when you look at the size of Wilder, the punching power, the reach, that was never going to be an easy and a really easy fight for Fury. because just like Wilder couldn't get out of reach of Fury's punches, it was hard for Fury to get out of the reach of Wilder's punches. But Fury just had the overall better boxing ability and IQ, and he was able to do what he did in those fights. Doesn't matter what anyone thinks. I ain't getting into that. Fury and Dillian White. Dillian White, he didn't belong in the ring with Tyson Fury. He won fights. He put himself in that position. But as far as skill-wise, everything else, we all knew what was going to happen. I don't see how people even picked Dillian White to win that fight. Now, Tyson Fury and AJ. Another one of those situations like Deontay Wilder. Size, reach, power. That to me is not a real easy fight for Tyson Fury. But Tyson Fury should be able to outbox him, should be able to move around the ring. Tyson Fury has better stamina than AJ. That, in my opinion, is going to be would be the major difference. Tyson Fury's stamina against Anthony Joshua's lack of stamina. That's going to be the difference. And once Anthony Joshua starts slowing down, Tyson Fury lets his shots go because obviously he's got some pop in those hands. So it is what it is. I could see him hurting Joshua and getting him out of there. But I definitely think Joshua has a puncher's chance to hurt Fury. But I think Fury's too smart. And when you look at Usyk is a guy that can go hard the whole 12 rounds, in and out, and it's hard to hit him. And he's in a weird southpaw stance. He was able to get shots off on AJ that Tyson Fury, I just don't think he's going to try to dance and box the whole fight. I think Tyson Fury is this is the thing I keep talking about in videos with these boxers who decide they want to sit down and try to trade or let their shots go to prove they have power. Not saying if Tyson Fury tries to do that with Usyk, that Usyk is going to knock him out. Hell no. But Tyson Fury can't really afford to try to sit there in front of Usyk and fight in close or have these exchanges. He needs to use his size advantage, his reach. And I think he knows that going to a fight with Usyk, although Usyk is the smaller man, and I'm very careful about those words I'm selecting to describe him as a smaller man because he's 6'4". So he's not a small man. But compared to Tyson Fury, 6'9", he's a smaller man. But Usyk is not a kind of guy who is going to miss opportunities to make you pay for your mistakes. Not just slipping punches, not just getting in and out, but if you decide to compromise your style and compromise your reach and fight small, you will not win in those exchanges with Usyk, as Anthony Joshua learned. And Usyk will normally get the last punch, so he finishes off his combinations. Where you're throwing 3 or 4, he may throw 7. And that is something that Joshua find himself on the end of a lot of those exchanges because he stopped throwing before Usyk did. So to me, Usyk is definitely the most difficult fight, but I still think Tyson Fury beats them all. I really do. And then after that, we'll see. But right now, Tyson Fury has 2 fights left. I'm not really sure what the hell what Arum is going to do. You know that man is all about his money, but maybe they have some kind of relationship that Fury comes back, he clips one of these guys for the undisputed, then he allows him to walk away. But he says that, when it comes to Tyson Fury, that he was more than likely going to retire from the sport after he beat Dillian White. But, we all know that he hasn't officially vacated his title, and he probably won't officially vacate it till after Usyk and Joshua have the fight. But no final decision's been made, and that is a sign, a key sign that Tyson Fury plans on continuing to fight. And the one thing that Arum has stopped doing, he stopped talking about Fury and having 2 fights left on his contract. Arum doesn't say anything about that. He spilled the beans and threw that out there a couple weeks ago. Now he's not mentioning that. But that's a fact, people, that Tyson Fury has 2 fights left. So don't be surprised if later this year Tyson Fury has a little stay busy fight and next year has the big undisputed showdown. Because I just can't see Bob Arum just allowing Fury to not fulfill his agreement, the contractual agreement. I just can't see that. But we'll see. Because outside of Usyk, outside of Joshua, for a stay busy fight, who would actually Tyson Fury go off and fight? that would motivate him, that would make him want to get up and go train. There really is nothing. There really is nobody out there. Now, there's a lot of guys out there he can go fight, but to get him up to want to go and train and get in shape and leave his wife and his children again, that's something that's extremely important to this man. I just don't see him. I just don't see him doing it, man. I just don't see him doing it. So we'll see. But one thing that I want to ask you guys about when it comes to these media tours that these fighters do, just to go and promote their fights. You know, I understand going to a place like, London. I understand New York. If you have a fight over in Asia or in the Middle East, I understand going over there somewhere, Saudi or somewhere. But even if you're doing those things, why wouldn't you have a big media tour in California? To me, if you're gonna do something stateside, if you're gonna do media tours stateside for a fight that's either in the United States or outside the United States, if you're gonna do that fight, why wouldn't you have a media tour in California and New York at a minimum? California and New York. I think California sometimes gets, unless it's doing it stateside, they just kind of leave that whole side of the world alone and go more to New York and focus on that. But I definitely think maybe if they have more time, but for this fight in particular, they're not even thinking about going to California. It's just New York, London, and the Middle East. But I definitely think they should at least hit California, but maybe because of the time constraints, they just figure that's not something that they want to do. But I know for the undisputed fight after AJ and Usyk fight, if they go for the undisputed, whoever wins against Tyson Fury, I'm sure they're going to be all over the world. Like, they're going to need a proper time to do a proper media tour and everything else. And the guys are going to need sufficient time to train. So I think then we'll get to California, to New York, maybe even to Miami, definitely in England. Who knows where else these guys are going to go. But I think they'll do a really nice, maybe 2-week period to travel and do the media tour. But right now, in my opinion, going forward, Tyson Fury, man, he holds the keys to the heavyweight division. Even though he's not the undisputed, he is the man. And no matter what no one says, those fights that he had with Deontay Wilder, man, it really did a lot for Tyson Fury's profile, and it did a lot for Deontay Wilder's profile. But Deontay Wilder, who knows what's going on with him? The WBC president could say Deontay Wilder's coming back. Deontay Wilder's not. I don't think that dude's coming back, man, to be honest with you. The man's worth almost $100 million. And, Marvelous Marvin Hagler said it the best. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. But when you're waking up in silk pajamas, hard to get up at 5 or 4 in the morning to go run. Hard to go and spar. It's hard to want to do things. And how can you possibly blow $70 to $100 million, And Deontay Wilder just in a great position. So that being said, man, Tyson Fury, man, he's running things, and I just think he's going to go out there and he's going to clip whoever he fights next. And undisputed, I think, is almost a given. I do think he could run into a little bit of some tough spots there with Usyk if Usyk wins. But I think Tyson Fury still prevails. He's too big, too smart. He can box the whole 12 rounds and keep Usyk at a distance. If he fights AJ, it could be a little bit tougher on paper just because of the size and power. But I just think Tyson Fury is a smarter boxer. Joshua was very worried about getting hit and getting hurt, and that hurts his overall performance. He doesn't want to get hit. He doesn't want to get hurt. And Tyson Fury is going to definitely test his chin. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It looks like we are going to get the undisputed bout. I don't care what Tyson Fury says, what the WBC says, what Bob Arum says. Tyson Fury is just hanging out, keeping everybody in limbo. He's not going to give up that belt, because if he was retired, he would have gave it up. He's not giving that belt up because he's going to go on and fight for the undisputed distinction. Don't be surprised if he and Bob Arum falls out if Tyson Fury doesn't want to do his second fight, because they have 2 fights remaining on that contract. As always, shout out to the veterans. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.